Hello everyone. Today we will be continuing our discussion of elections and voting methods, starting with the simplest of the voting methods that we'll talk about, which is the plurality method. Now, the plurality method is a voting method that basically is completely centered around how many first place votes does each candidate have. So this is really, the simplicity of this lies in the fact that when we're ranking the candidates, all we have to do is figure out who has the most first place votes, then the next most, and so forth and so on, all the way down to last if we're doing a full ranking of the candidates. So there are advantages and disadvantages of this method. The biggest advantage is, of course, the simplicity and the fact that we can use single choice ballots, which the other voting methods that we'll talk about, single choice ballots don't really work. We really need preference ballots. Disadvantages of this, you can end up with a candidate that's not necessarily preferred over all the other candidates by a majority of voters, meaning that, say we have an election where candidate B wins because they have the most first place votes, but of the people that did not choose candidate B, let's say most people chose candidate A over candidate B. And let's say we have a whole bunch of candidates. So even though most people would prefer candidate A over candidate B still wins. This is one of the disadvantages of the plurality method, along with the fact that sometimes with this method, we get what's called insincere voters, which is basically where voters think that the candidate they want does not have a chance, so they vote for someone else. So we will look at this example that we introduced in the last video. This is basically a preference schedule for an election with 4 candidates. We're just going to call them A, B, C, and D. And we want to determine the ranking of these candidates using the plurality method. So all we're going to do for this is we're just going to figure out how many first place votes does each of these candidates A, B, C, and D have. So let's start with A. So you'll notice if we look at our preference schedule, there's 2 columns where A is the voter's first choice, basically. So we're going to add up the number of votes that go with each of these. So we have 7 for this column and 1 for this column. So that gives us 8 total first place votes for A. Next, we're going to do the same thing for candidate B. B is only at the top of 1 column, and in this case, it's 9 votes. So B has 9 first place votes. Same thing, C has 3, and D has 5. So when we are determining the ranking of these, we're just going to go from most first place votes down to least first place votes. So that means our first place winner in this case will be B, who has the most first place votes. A has the next most, so A is going to be second, and then D next, and then C will be last. That's really all there is to the plurality method. Again, this is the simplest of the 4 voting methods that we will talk about. Thank you for watching, and if you have questions, feel free to let me know.